We are back. We are back. A quick reminder that even though our speaker is joining us over Zoom, we request you to not cross in front of the screens, to not come in and go out during the presentation. And with that, it is my great pleasure to first introduce you all on screen to Fatima Bintou Rassoul C, who's joining us from Dakar, Senegal, from the Raw Material Company. And before I get into Fatima's bio and many interesting projects and accomplishments, I do want to take us back to yesterday and the beginning of the hub, where Pratik and I and Priyanka all spoke about the invitation that was made to Koyoko for this hub last year, and to again bring her incredible words, people are more important than things, a simple philosophy that we have seen articulated in many ways in the presentations that have happened, and we will certainly hear much more from Fatima as well. Fatima, you're very much with us. We've been playing the Raw Academy playlist in all of our breaks, so it's permeated the room. And let me just introduce you formally. Fatima Bintou Rassoul C is a curator based in Dakar, Senegal, with a strong interest in archives and narratives of Black geographies. Fatima's practice uncovers stories that are often overlooked or untold, and explores the ways in which communities inhabit and reflect on their own experiences. She's committed to creating spaces where these stories can be brought to life, preserving collective memory and fostering deeper connections within and between beings. Since 2020, Fatima has been program director at Raw Material Company, a vibrant center for art, knowledge, and society based in Dakar that was founded in 2008 by Koyoko and established as a physical space in 2011. Raw was born from a deep and urgent need to create a platform for critical reflection on artistic practice and its vital connection to contemporary life. It stands today as a home for exploring, discussing, and expanding art as a powerful generator of knowledge and catalyst for social transformation. Since joining RAW in 2020, Fatima has contributed to the organization's curatorial direction, discursive programming, and international collaborations, all of which we will hear about over the next hour. Welcome, Fatima, and it's a real pleasure and an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Ratan. I'm very happy to be amongst you, even if it's virtually. I've heard a lot of amazing things about this program, and I'm very honored to be here following the path of Natasha, Amal, or Marie-Hélène, who should have been there. So thank you for having me. So I'm going to start with few words of thank you, and because this is how things should be. So allow me to say how honored I am to participate in this year's Experimenters Creators Hub. And in my opinion, this is a very important program, and I wish I knew of it earlier. I told you, Ratan. I've been very lucky to join this year, and for that, I would like to thank my sister, and in many ways mentor, Marie-Hélène Pereira, who is our artistic director and long-term collaborator at Raw Material Company. I would like also to thank my sisters and colleagues in Dakar for the trust and the support. And finally, Ehon, Ratan, Pratek, Priyanka, Joshua, Alina, and Rhea for the ongoing work that you're doing in your context and beyond. And by doing so, nourishing our bonds and empowering more practitioners of our geographies. Last but not least, I would like to thank you all for being here and engaging in this reflection with us. Hope you did have an amazing lunch and you're ready for accompanying me in this journey. So I did went a bit quickly, but I think that among the many persons to whom I need to give thanks, there is someone that no one can forget. It's Koyoko. Okay. So Koyo is the founder of Raw Material Company, but beyond that, I think she has been an amazing sister and mother to many of us in Dakar. I'm sorry. But the image I'm sharing with you now are image of the celebration that we did in June 14th to commemorate her work and her legacy. And it was very important for me to start with this image that is actually really what Raw is, like people gathering around food, a lot of love in the air, a lot of warmth, and a lot of care and support. And she has been gifting the different community in which she finds herself with that. And I think this was her give back. Oh, sorry, I'm very sorry. So this was her give back. And so June 14 was the moment that we chose to celebrate Koyo in Dakar after her passing. And I think that the intitulé of this presentation is Institution Building as Cultural Practice. And it is a mission that we borrow from her. And I would say that we all borrow help from her at Rome. So let me give you a little bit of a background. Koyo settled in Dakar in the 90s, where she began developing her practice as an independent curator. She built strong connection with the people you're seeing in this image, but also with the local art scene, particularly with one of its most influential figures, who is Issa Sam, also known as Juwakam. Alongside him, Koyo explored the impact of his artistic practice on Dakar and Senegal as a whole. And it helped her understanding that what was possible and what needed to be done in order to bring transformation and new dynamism to Dakar cultural landscape. So funding Raw Material Company was not just a necessity, but a natural progression. It was necessary because she wanted to anchor her work in this context as an independent curator, and she led significant projects, but she recognized the fragility of independent practice, and project will end, followed by periods of silence that disrupt momentum. Among the people I was quoting earlier, the very important one is Assam, who, along with other artists, founded the Laboratoire Agitart, a space to reflect on art's role in society, foster close ties between artists and communities, and elevate artistic practice beyond aesthetic. The laboratoire is still existing, even if Joe Wakam passed away in 2017. But he is a very important figure because this courtyard of the 17 Rue Jules Ferry, but also the energy and the way the laboratoire was engaging with Dakar art scene and even beyond Dakar art scene, because they have influence and connection in Douala, in South Africa, in Mali, in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, has really given imprint or leave an imprint in the way Koyo was considering the way she will unfold her artistic and her curatorial practice in this geography. So Raw was founded in 2008 as a mobile concept, and then it was established as a physical space in 2011. And as Raw curatorial practice and the scope of its work has grown, so has grown Koyo's interest in the way that art institutions encapsulate and act on different forms of curating. And there is a say and a thinking of Malian economist and social scientist and patron of the arts, Aminata Draman Traoré, that Africa must recover the immaterial part of herself, that which feeds her imagination. And we are convinced that art institutions are not only product of their environment, but also active and invaluable agents capable of shaping their societies in return. So in this talk, we will discuss of the similarities that exist amongst art institutions that have emerged in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and South America over the last 25 years also, and that have contributed to the way we understand and shape the work of Raw Material Company. we also want to think about the impact these institutions have had on ways of understanding the role of the curator before looking in depth at how Roe used programming to produce a symbiosis between its existence as an institution and its curatorial practice. Ahon, hope you will be good with time because I'm not good at all. Just saying. so, um, so let's start. When in 2008 we Koyo created Raw Material Company in Dakar, uh, we were able to boast a relatively dynamic level of artistic activity and intellectual production, the city being best known in artistic circles for its biennale, and that it has hosted since 1990s. In the 20 years following independence, Senegal has had a centralized model of state cultural production inherited from the French colonial period and reinforced under the poet President Léopold Sédar Senghor. But the structural adjustment program of the 1980s, however, brought an end to state support, and while the cultural arms of international diplomacy and a small number of collectors contributed to the art scene, this led in general to a significant shift in style and content that was tailored toward the top-down goals of international development and a misplaced and deformed notion of what traditional African art should be. What's more, by the 2000s, there was no formal space to address theoretical idea around contemporary artistic production. So Row was thus born out of the necessity to create a space for sharing knowledge, a place that would provide access to contemporary artistic theory and in return generate discourse ideas and practice. And what you need to understand by this is that from the 60s, many kind of institution and infrastructure has been created by late President Leopold Sédar Senghor, but the structural adjustment crisis did really tear down the effort and the political engagement of the government at this time. So many of those institutions that were created, the manufacture of tapestry, the National Theatre, the Musée Dynamique, all these different infrastructure at some point collapsed. Some of them are still existing. The tapestry manufacturer is still there. And all those institutions, all the actors within this institution, artists, curators, thinkers, were bound into a more bigger plan of, how do we say, using culture as an element of the diplomatic gesture of the president at that time. So when we talk about raw has different meanings. It refers to Africa as an historic supplier of raw materials to global industry, but also to art and intellectualism as the raw material of human development. Company represent both an entrepreneurial approach to artistic production and a sense of collaboration. So raw material company, the name is more qualifying the gray matter and how we are losing this gray matter in the African continent, in our geographies, because the educational system can't offer them or can't meet their need or their ambition. So RAW is pendant to that. And what is important to note here is that we emerge at the same time as a significant member of other private non-commercial art center away from the epicenter of the Western art world. Among these, we can cite Ruan Grupa in Indonesia, Teoretica in Costa Rica, and Ashkal Alwan in Lebanon, all partners organization of Rome. So this space sets themselves apart from state-affiliated institutions and the commercial art market, with many of them addressing an artistic and critical void in their local environment. So while art centers in the West have been buckling under the strain of budget cuts, more and more seem to be opening in the rest of the world. So this space, and it is bigger today, and I'm very happy and proud of it. This space sets themselves apart from state-affiliated institutions and the commercial art market, with many of them addressing an artistic and critical void in their local environment. Some aim to establish self-organized, non-hegemonic and experimental fields, such as Crater Invertido in Mexico, who function on a collaborative workshop model. Some were deliberately questioning institutions established by the post-colonial state, and many tried to fill in where the public sector has floundered. So Doualat in Cameroon, where we did Raw Academy Session 10, is an example of that. It was funded in 1991 in direct response to inadequate legislation on freedom of association in the country. And Sud, its triennial festival, is a platform for experimentation and intervention in the urban space of Douala and a proposition for new forms of citizenship. And we did the Raw Academy Session 10. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later in Douala, because on the African continent, this was the institution that actually built all its cultural practice around this idea of art in public space with all what it encompasses. So I would say in tandem with the growth in independent art institutions away from the West, there has also been a notable shift in understanding what a curator does and their role in society. Today's curator working in an independent art center in Dakar, Medellin, or Jakarta do far more than that which is framed by the norms of contemporary art. It is thus at this point constructive to pause on the term curating. And when I say far more, you just get into the website of Experimenter and you get it. In Raphael Nibodziewski's essay, The Aspirational Narrative of the New Curator, he highlights the Latin roots of the terms curate, curare, meaning to care for. While this meaning is inextricably tied to the historical role of curator as caretaker and protector of a particular collection, its connotations are given new lives into today's sociopolitical and artistic climate, where the urgencies of defending sites, of criticality and dreaming press upon us all. Everything is good, Ehan? Okay. So maybe this is more akin to what we do at Row. Our cultural practice is our way of caring for society and its citizens to ensure its health and vitality. So this need to think about process of curation that go further, that take into account methodologies of societal care and whose interests are neither commercial nor purely aesthetic, has pushed Koyo and Row to engage with new or undervalued creative practice. We are forced to think about what skills and knowledge people have that come from outside of the academy or mainstream art world, but that already do or have the potential to contribute to our artistic ecosystem and beyond this to society. We have been inspired by the work of collaborators such as Chimurenga, and we still work with Chimurenga. They are in Dakar right now for a residency. So it's the Pan-African platform for writing, art and politics who directed the second session of our academy program, and it is funded and directed by journalist and essayist and musician and DJ Tony Ejabe. So, as they so beautifully put it in Chimurenga, unless we push form and content beyond what exists, then we merely reproduce the original form, the colonized form. If you will, it requires not only a new set of questions, but its own set of tools, new practices and methodologies that allow us to engage the line of flight, of fragility, the precariousness, as well as the joy, the creativity and beauty that defines contemporary African life. We could say contemporary global majority lives also. The question does become, how might raw material company produce a symbiosis between its existence as an institution and its engaged curatorial practice as an engaged curatorial practice? So as I have shown, the two are not mutually exclusive, but rather conclusive to developing and supporting new forms of artistic practice that intervene in society. So we read Raw as a self-reflexive institution that operates around 7 main pillars of activity that I'm going to share now, all center in their own way on artistic research and critical thinking. And these activities constitute a practice that I get it. A practice that contributes to the local artistic environment of Rome, but that equally nurtures the development of Rome's practice through close ties to its public, new theoretical proposition, and the building of a local and international network. So Ehon, actually, all this was in slide 5 because I don't pour you with all the image, and I was, as you see, very with a lot of labor composing these slides. So everything was in slide 5. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything. So this is something that actually Koyo constantly remind us. People are more important than things. And as you can see, Row begins and ends with what happens between people, and what we put on the walls fits into that. Challenge it and gives us new ways of doing things. That's how we try to behave. It means remaining open to the idea that our imagination and intellect must be transgressed, and that in the space between what you know and what we know, like the space between our geographies, there is a world of possibilities. And this representation for me of this say is a team. So for Koyo, this image needs really to be updated, but you have many, many amazing raw Amazon in this image, but some of them are missing. You're missing Philly and Haja, the one that joined us very recently and doing an amazing and fundamental work in raw. And one of the show I'm going to sharing with you has been created by Philly also. And it's a collective and a joint effort. And the quote you're seeing on the bottom of the image means when people seek for things or for, how do we say, wealth, seek for people and keep seeking for people. So this is the Wolof version of people are more important than things. So continuity for Koyo was essential, and creating a dedicated space accompanied by a dedicated team was her way of ensuring that the work and that of artists could endure. So the idea for Ro was not to have the same team and the same kind of profile in the team forever. She did articulate all her thinking about transmission, and we did actually all support this joint effort. When you enter Ro and you enter the space, the first thing she's telling you is that Ro is not a job, girls, it's a mission. And it's really something that actually many of us, when we enter the space, we didn't get it until we land there, and we really land in the space. And this needs time and understanding of which dynamics work on the team, with the artists, with the curators, but with the local collaborators that are there with us on a daily basis. No way! Okay. So, oh my God, this is so short. Okay, so let me go through slides then. So Rose is composed of Raw Base. It's a rich collection of books, film, newspaper, and other resources specialized in contemporary art. And alongside like the publication and the Raw Base who nurture our reflection, you have a whole set of exhibition making that are possible, and thinking that are possible through the publication work that we're doing. And the way we understand also our curatorial approach is through different variety of medium, and the publication are a space of curation that don't come as a repetition of what has happened in the space, but as a mirror in a way, or something that extend the reflection and the discussion. We articulate our work around different set of programming. The Fridays at Row is our program where we have the public coming weekly in the space, and it's a constellation of public events that encompass the Vox artists, that, as you understand, is a moment for artists to share their work, the Row Cine Club, a film screening followed by panel discussions, Ideology, a reflection on the contemporary African city space, and of course the argument, which is a new cycle of conversation which center political, economic, social, and ecological issues affecting contemporary African societies. One of the main programs that we have, and that is very important, is also the condition report. And it's a very important program for us to take, in a certain way, the pulse of our practice, but also the geography in which they are performed. So the different condition report did embrace question around the creation of artistic institution on the African continent. It encompasses also artistic education on the African continent and beyond, including when we say on the African continent, we include the diaspora, be it the African diaspora and the Black diaspora. The symposium that was fundamental also was the one on art history in Africa. Actually, I have it. I go back to it quite very often because it really rebuilt the discourse and the narrative around what contemporary African art is and where those artists are speaking from and who are the thinkers and the writers and the curators that actually did an extensive work and research into just learning and excavating all this archive and this history that has been invisibilized for such a long time. There was a very interesting symposium that actually Marie-Hélène and Dulcie hold. It was during the Dakar Art Summit in Bangladesh in 2020, and it proposed focused reflection on the history of inspiring artist collective in Africa and Asia, and their gesture of solidarity is under the title Stepping Out of Line, Artist Collective and Translocal Parallelism. And the last symposium that actually paved the way for the academy that we just wrap up was called A Sense of Place, Displacement, Replacement, Non-Placement, and was developed in collaboration with Fenrin Star, artist, writer, and professor. And it took place last December, and this symposium delved into the many dimensions of place. Its subtle resonance, its inhabited silence, its invisible yet deeply felt energy, and it raised question of presence, rootedness, and memory, and how this anchor persist or evolve in a world marked by migration, ecological rupture, and social and political upheaval. I know, Ehon, I know, I'm going quick. And oh, you're lovely. Thank you. And this is the Raw Academy, which is a very, very important program for us because for a very long time, Raw pursued an intense program of exhibition making and fundamental exhibition because there was reflection around like Pan-Africanism, but also photograph of a season of protest that was called Chronique d'une Révolte, which was a very important exhibition survey of what did happen during the appraisal of in 2012 during the presidential election in Senegal, Hollandaise that investigated the complex relationship between the Netherlands and Africa in the context of colonization and decolonization. But in October 2016, Rowe decided to channel a greater proportion of its energy into artistic education, recognizing that healthy and fruitful art making and display in its context had to go hand in hand with support for an emerging generation of both artists, curators, art historians, and critics. And this go beyond now. We have architects and so on and so forth. So extensive research and deep study of the landscape of art education in Africa and beyond, including the symposium condition report on artistic education, led to the inception of the Raw Academy, which ran its first session in late 2016. And to prepare this, Koyo did went to Ashkal Alwan for a residency to look at the way they were developing and thinking about their programming when it comes to education. Marie-Hélène did travel also. I think she was in Teoretica, but I'm not sure. Yes, but she did went for a residency in order to look at the way they've been developing their programming. So this global network is fundamental for us to be able to do the work that we're doing. And when I say global network, I'm looking especially on the global majority. And the context in which we find ourselves are different, but there is many ways and tricks and skills that we all develop that are very useful in between our geographies. And this is why this movement toward Beirut, toward Mexico for Marie-Hélène was important. And Luanda, Angola for Marie-Cissé was important. So this year Academy was a very important and interesting program because we were looking at the idea that people's practice need to be better anchored. And when we say better anchored, we need to really deep dive into what makes the context in which we are performing, what makes the context in which we are doing and developing our artistic or curatorial practice. And we need to develop or to create the condition for this new generation of practitioners to be able to challenge the different notion in which they engage, but also challenge their own practice in an ethical way, also taking more into consideration dynamics of care and also the relationship they are having with the community. What does it mean to be working with or working within a community? So we did invite different curators. It was led by Fenway Sarah, but we invite architect Mining Loco that developed this program called Soy Sister, Sename Kofi Abojinu, architect and researcher, but also writer, Sonia Vaz Borges, who is a thinker and a scholar that did an amazing work on the PAIGC movement, Samia Heni, different of them. They were amazing. And the group, the cohort was really important. At this specific moment of our life, we decided to hold the academy besides what did happen because it was important for them, but it was also a way for us to go into the grieving in a different way. And they did help. They just left Dakar. So this is the profile of the fellow. You have all the information on our links and our website. But I thought it was very important for you to see or to sense what does this mean and what is the feeling and how do we move in this idea about education and knowledge. So the relationship we are building with the fellow of this program is also something that need to evolve through time. And for it to happen, there was this idea of creating the condition for them to actually perform or practice in a more professional or in condition that give them the mean of developing their project and the network that they needed. So we start for the invitation we receive for international collaboration to bring them in, for them to develop an exhibition, for them to create a show, for them to bring their work, for them to develop a project or to do a residency. And one of these iterations was La Casa Encendida in Spain recently, the Conservarium in Hamburg, and so on and so forth. I'm going to go quickly through the residency program, but I think that I'm really sorry for the time because there is a very important aspect of it. I don't know, Ehon, if you're going to allow me to go into Tuan's project more in detail. And I thank you. Okay, so your residency program is fundamental in what we're doing, but things have evolved in a different way now. The residency program starts off receiving curators, researchers for different research. They are accompanied by the team to navigate Dakar, put in contact with people of our context. We do the mediation, the discussion, and we learn as we go with them. But at some point after COVID, we feel the need that the residency need to not be just research-based, but to be developed towards a production residency so that the artists of our context can have an opportunity to be supported within this complicated time. So during COVID, we started the production residency that is something like around 1 month or 2 of research, depending of the scale of the project, and a production phase where we will be accompanying an artist that we know the work of, that we know the practice of, but that need this little, push at this specific moment of their career, at this specific moment of their work. So we did, in 2020, create this residency program, and the residency was a space for building a whole new discourse around our exhibitions. And I have to say that the profile of the team members, but also their interest and what challenged them in their own personal life in terms of topics and question and reflection, will bring more and more and more into the exhibition process. One of the main projects in which we have been working, and for me that is transformative when it comes to look at what the curatorial practice is, was the work of artist Tuan Andre Nguyen. We did actually, Tuan came for a residency in order to look at the relationship that exists between, I'm sorry, Ehon, you are an amazing timekeeper. Okay, so the relationship that exists between the Senegalese riflemen and their fellow soldiers and colleagues that they find in the war territory of Indochina. So the Senegalese riflemen as this community of soldiers that were under the French colonial period mobilized to go and fight for France and in different, how do you say, geography of war. And there is a specific history that happened in Indochina because when they were mobilized after the Second World War, many of them has been sent to Indochina, and they did felt in love, meet a lot of women coming from Vietnam, being from Vietnam, with whom they did build a family, but not taking into consideration the journey back home. And I think in different ways, this history has been challenging, but also very, very empowering and nourishing when it comes to look at the social fabric of Senegal. Because those women after the Indochina War, when the French lose the war, most of the people were repatriated in Senegal with their kids and their family, and they need to bring all their history with them, silence this history in many ways because they were entering families that weren't expecting them to come, but also really nourishing a whole generation of young people that actually are the figure that built this country today. So this history was silenced in different ways in the families, but also we were not just talking about them existing in our context, and we misvalue their contribution to the country shift and change. And Tuan coming in Dakar, doing this residency, working on the film with the community, and looking at the family archive was a very, very important process for us in terms of how you navigate the relationship with people, how you navigate the trust, and how do you learn to accept the no. This space is not for you to enter. No, this space is about intimacy and the community, and none of you, even if we share the country, the nationality, are welcome to enter. So it was a very, very interesting journey and learning process for us in the relationship we're building with those people in this community, but also how do we do for a project not to just be a one moment project, but to be something that lasts and a relationship that continue, and that we need to nourish each of us in different ways through the use and the preservation of the archive, through the collection of this archive, to taking care of the archive, but also giving them agency in the way these archives are used. And Tuan, as an artist, was fundamental in developing this project. And we've been working with him and the whole team in different ways and different capacities to be able to convey in Dakar and to have everyone meeting in Row, and this story to be connected to everyday audience that come in the space. And within the space during the opening, you bumped into your uncle come and he bumped into a colleague that he has, or a friend, or a cousin that actually is his cousin. They grew up together in Saint Louis, but they never make the relationship between them belonging to the Vietnamese Senegalese community and being part of the social fabric of Senegal. I know I'm over time now, Ahon, but here you have the publication on which we are working, and I'm going to stop there so that Ratan have space and time also, I think, for the question. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry, I'm always over time.
Thank you, Fatma. We could listen to
Thank
you
you.
for much, much, much longer, but to be fair, since we've been keeping time
Yes,
for everyone
yes.
else, I want to actually bring up something that you said when we chatted initially about this, which relates very much to your account of Tuan's residency, but of the residency program at Raw, more broadly speaking. And you said the residencies have changed the sense we have of ourselves and how we perceive and treat people. And I wanted to hear a little bit more about that from you. You've given us an account of how this residency played out, and this beautiful project called The Spectre of Ancestors Becoming emerged out of it. We've seen over the last few days many discussions of these kinds of iterative projects that the curators in the hub have supported at various moments, but also that the spaces have nurtured. And so just to ask you this very broad question about the kind of two-way traffic, let's say, between the artist and the institution, but also the sense of community and the transformation of that sense of community that you might think about through these experiences.
Yes, thank you, Ratan. Thank you very much for this question. I think that many time when we think or we talk about the work we're doing in community, we are working within those communities and having the idea that we bring solutions to them, or that we, in a way or another, creating new conditions for them to exist or to have a better condition or living or a better relationship with their own historicities. But actually, sometimes and most of the times, communities are organized and they actually know how to handle the own challenge they are facing. So the learning system is the other way around. You enter this space and you are welcomed and you are taught and you are humbled in many ways and in many capacities, because when we met most of the people of the community, Maritiva, Jean-Claude Zo, Mary Bay, most of them actually were working and finding ways to identify the other members of the Vietnamese Senegalese community. And it goes from calling through WhatsApp group as meeting someone on the bus, looking at this person and just gently ask the question about what is your trace and the relationship with the country, where are you from, and understanding but what is not said by this person, that actually there is a whole loss of track of history, because certain of those kids came as orphans in families that weren't ready to welcome the other narrative and that were challenging with their own narrative, and that don't give them space to understand what their journey in this world has been. And this community will take you and will take care of you and retrace the history for you. So they've been doing the work among themselves. They've been actually looking at it very closely. What we give as an institution and what we are capable of giving is the infrastructure and the support, technical support, administrative support for them to be going further, and also put the word to be able to trace what this journey has been through time and history, being able to make the connection with what happened in terms of politically in the country, what is the colonial route, but also how this colonial route don't only inform Senegal, but also Anglo Morocco, because we've understood that this community exists also in Morocco, because there was Moroccan soldier in the French army. The same story inhabit Benin. The same story inhabit Mali. So what we do is expanding perhaps the reflection and expanding the possibility of self that exists beyond the geographical frontier of Senegal. And they taught us, they did taught us a lot, and they keep they keep teaching us actually on a daily basis, because we are still working with them. The exhibition did travel a lot, and to one position was that this work, the film, was made by the community and written by the community, and he did realize it. So there is no way that the film is exhibited without their archive, and the artwork is paid or support without supporting the people who actually make the artwork possible. So it really challenged the condition under which the art market is working, and how do we do when people collaborate in order to do a project, and who is paid for the project, which work is sold, who buy the work, and to whom the money of this acquisition goes. And so there is artists that actually have an understanding and a vision of that, and that understand that they can't, or they have ethical concern in the way that they navigate their own practice. And those questions came up out of this project. We didn't find ourselves in a position where we don't sell work. So the market dynamic that comes with this project wasn't, we wouldn't have learned about it without having been involved with that. And then it really challenged the way also we work, and it really make us understand that we can't just do projects and lock them.
Yeah.
We need to nurture those projects and those relationships through times. And yes, they were at Koyo's funeral. So it say everything.
Thank you. And maybe one last question from me, and we will open it up to the room. I don't want to deprive you of this incredible gathering here. I want to maybe talk about this question of resources and how we kind of fuel ourselves in all these different ways. It was very striking to kind of listen to the genealogy of RAW. It was interesting to think about the parallels perhaps with state cultural infrastructures in post-colonial contexts that are collapsing or have collapsed in all kinds of ways, and what has emerged. And of course, just to re-emphasize the Laboratoire d'Agitat, which is something that is such a key reference, as you pointed out, and not just a reference, but really a kind of seed for the kind of work, but of course also a place that was sort of notoriously elusive in terms of object production, in terms of being co-opted by either the market or by museums, and that's perhaps why many people don't know about that history either. But in the context of RAW, I wanted to understand, all of us, it'd be helpful, I think, to hear about the kinds of ways in which resources are made available or are mobilized by you. You talked about this incredible constellation of actors around the world that are your collaborators, and we've talked a lot here about kind of radical administration of resources that Amal threw out as a very, very productive way of thinking of how to grow and share differently within these art ecosystems. So perhaps to understand from you a little bit about how you gather those resources and redistribute them within this very large umbrella of RAW.
I think that, first of all, I think the network in which we find ourselves was fundamental in understanding how resources can be used and how this can be fundamental transformative for each of our institutions involved in network like Arts Collaboratory of Parkour. And to be, for those who don't, Arts Collaboratory is this network of 25 institutions that still exists today. And we used to have this kind of common pot in which every time we would be able, as institution or initiative, to delve into in order to do a collaborative project. But doing those collaborative projects, it wasn't about the money that we can gain out of it, because the amount that you can have is an amount that can make a project run, but it was about the value of being able to travel and to meet the context of the other one. And I think the resource that many of us misvalue or don't see or overlooked is the skills and the tools that we all develop in the geographies that we have, because we learn from the context in which we find ourselves, and because also we did experience, depending of the genealogy or the temporality of your institution, we did experience different things. And I think that being involved in this network, working with collectives, working with institutions, understanding the challenge when it comes to address certain questions, this is a whole set of tools and a whole set of resources that are not monetary. You can't value them monetarily. What you can do is just having the possibility and the opportunity to be fed with that. And actually, this is what is our strength. This is what is our force as institutions that navigate or that develop their project or that are anchored in the global majority. Because we need to be resilient. We need to challenge ourselves to find solution and tricks to be able to do the work that we're doing. And we need to be in solidarity to do that. And this solidarity can't be performed internationally if this solidarity isn't performed locally. So belonging to Arts Collaboratory also create the need for us to create Parkour at the exact same period that RAW was existing. And it was a way for us to, Parkour is a collective of different art institution initiatives, but also independent curator that gonna meet, connect, and aggregate every December, end of November, to celebrate and to show work, exhibition, conference, debates, etc., etc. It's a way to take the pulse of your context, to see and to look at your colleagues and friends that are across the street that are developing a project. You didn't see the door of the house opening these past few weeks. You're going to knock at the door and understand, Marion, where are you? Are you still here? Are you traveling? Are you challenged? What is happening? Having lunch together at noon and being able to see each other. All these are resources. All these are resources that actually can be valued, but that has a very important impact in the way solidarity is performed, in the way we are keeping doing the work we're doing, and also in the support system you build around the work that your organization is doing. But to be honest, BRO is funded not by the government, it's funded privately, it's an independent art space, and we enter certain topics and notion and we challenge them in so many different ways that it would be difficult for our very rigid politics to be able to support institutions like ours. So we are very happy to be in this position where we did develop those different pillars and those different programmatic pillars that we fit with the interests that we have, but we fundraise, like all of us, we fundraise. What we need to find is the commercial aspect, but actually it has never been our place, but we know that this system is very challenging and fundraising every time won't make us, survive forever. So we find tricks and different ways to support the institution and to receive core funding for a several period of time that can help us also develop the programming that we want. We will do project-based funding, but very few because it's a lot of administration and it's a lot of process, and actually for a program that's going to happen for a day or 2 days. So what we prioritize is actually taking our energy to build up a full scope of program and to be in conversation with people that understand the ethic of the space, that understand what we're doing, and we make our funders coming. We ask them to come. They come to visit the space, they come when we have events, and they come to understand what is happening in our geographies and why the work that we're doing is fundamental. They come for the Biennale, they come for parcours, or sometimes for any other kind of situation, and that is also what makes our force, because then the relationship is a relationship of trust and care, and they feel responsible as much as we feel responsible, and we are able to negotiate with the timeline, the schedule, the reporting, and everything, because they understand that we've been doing things, and it's important. I don't know if I understand properly your question.
You answered it better than I could have even articulated it.
Okay.
But I do want to spend these last 10 minutes taking questions from the room. We have microphones. We've had really, really excellent questions all through the last day and a half. So if you have a question, as always, raise your hand. I have a different vantage point now. And say your name and speak clearly and loudly.
But your room is full, right? This is great.
It's full. It's full
I didn't see all these people. Oh my God. Okay, great. So who is asking? Nice. Happy to see you all.
There's one in there.
Hello. Thanks a lot for this really inspiring conversation. My question, I'll keep it very specific. In terms of your approach to fundraising, which is what you spoke just now, it's challenging in the Global South to begin with. Plus, there are a lot of sketchy sources of funds also. So what kind of ethical guidelines do you follow when you fundraise? And do you have some kind of due diligence or, to track down, especially if it's coming from the diaspora elsewhere? And this question's like for all the speakers, maybe for the panel discussion also. But just to you, how do you fundraise, beyond the community if there's a degree of separation?
Thank you.
Okay, so how do we fundraise, right?
Yes.
And if I can underline a word that Anindo used, the word diaspora, I think is something that is also important and interesting to talk about in this context. He talked about that as a possible source, but I also wanted to kind of put in there a question around how you imagine the diaspora of Raw Material Company, the diaspora that you speak to, but also the kind of longer diasporic histories that are very much implicated in the work that you're doing programmatically. So both in terms of funding and resources, but also in terms of concept and creation.
Okay, so when it comes to fundraising, as I said earlier, we just apply we just do applications and we look at also, and actually I have to be honest, for a very long time, this is a role that Koyo has undertaken and that we're still undertaking when she left Row, and being able to make the connection between us and people that are interested in the work that we're doing, or sending an email and saying, hey girls, there is this person coming at Row, she need to know how you work, you need to discuss with them and to talk about the programming, what you're doing, and how you want them to be supporting you or how you want to collaborate with them. So we have a whole network, board of directors, and a whole network of artists, curators, and people that were involved in the programming of Row, and that actually are the one being Row ambassadors. They are the one that connect us with people. They are the one that gonna be able to say, oh, please, oh, you need to talk to this person. They coming to Dakar, or you are in, I don't know, Berlin. You need to meet this person because they are interested about the work that you're doing. And I think that the work you do as an institution, but also the way the people involved in the institution are received and treated, make that difference, really. You have a whole network of people that actually advocate for you where you are not even. People advocating for the work you're doing, but also people advocating for the human beings behind these works. And I think this is what Koyu was able to do. She has been such an important figure in the different community in which she finds herself, and giving a hand, as she taught us to do, to colleagues, friends, collaborators, artists. Now those people are the people actually running the art world. So there is a kind of support that comes out of it. And we embrace it, we don't abuse of it, and we are also very considerate of the fact that we are supported and we've been supported, but we also need to support and to create the condition for people of our context and the other organizations, sister organizations with whom we are working, to find the level of support they need. And when we are invited in a collaborative project that come with funding, but we know that this is not our space, and we know that actually in the context there is artists, curators, or institutions that have a better understanding of, I don't know, what art in public space is. For the Sunyojan project, for instance, we hand it over to them, because actually this is not our space, this is not what we do. So you need also to be very honest with your limits and your capability or your capacity, and to give space for others to join the table, and to give space for others to also have a chance or have the possibility to show what they're doing and how they're doing it. So now Row is a big institution, it's a small house, but we do a lot of things, and we are very ambitious and very excited of developing projects and programming. But I have to say that actually most of the time we are just redirecting people towards colleagues and friends, toward institutions that are from Dakar, but also from Kenya or others, or sending a fellow of the program into this geography for this presentation, or for a program, or for a fee as a creator for a project. Because we understood that we can't do everything, and also it's a circle. We need to nurture as much as we've been nurtured. So we will take care of safeguarding the team and creating the condition for them to be able to work, and the house to continue to be the space of transmission, because there is no agenda of having us at the head of Row forever. At some point, we need to form and to train the generation that are going to come and overtake also the work of Row. And we hope to have generation and generation of people joining the work of this organization. But when it comes to the diaspora and it comes to the mapping, I love this question, Ratan, because I think Koyo was a very, very, very intelligent and brilliant human being. What she understands by making community in every land and geography where she finds herself was that this gives us a set of ambassadors, a set of support, a set of people that gonna nurture the programming, that gonna support the work we're doing in the daily basis, artists joining us for an exhibition, curators coming up for a program, a Row Academy that gonna compose just of people that are from Raw Network. And all this program, all this discursive program, or this community grounded program, or this collective program, actually, whenever an academy ended up, it's a network of 20% that is out in the world. It's a network of 20%. And the experiment the Curators Hub is the same. Actually, it's a network of people that experience something at the same time. There is connection that's going to happen. There is excitement that come out of it. There is tension that come out of it. But nurturing for the work and the practice we're doing. Each of you, you're going to be in a different geographies tomorrow. You're going to be in a different land tomorrow. You're going to create your own community. And you're expanding the Curators Hub network. You're expanding the Raw Academy network. And you belong to a family from now on. And it's up to you to maintain and to feed this group, to feed this family, and to look back at what you've been experiencing in life when you just grow and you transform. We all grow at some point because we are fed by the community in which we find ourselves. So the development that comes with it, at some point, there is a resharing that is naturally happening, that is coming out of the culture in which we are anchored, that coming up out of the education we receive. It's an understanding of how life operates. It's an understanding of how oneself exists within a bigger cosmogony, geography, and net of effort, force, energy, and beauty also that gonna actually fit the world in which we find ourselves. So I think that as much as we're thinking about circularity when it comes to the relationship to the land, to the beings, to the ecology, and to spirituality, we need to think about something similar in the work that we're doing. And this is what she did for us. Actually, whenever you go somewhere, you're going to meet somewhere that experience Raw in a way or another, and that's going to tell you crazy stories about the space where you weren't there. And that's going to be just like, I'm doing this, and finally you're just like, oh, you should come. And then you start doing something together. And this is very natural. Of course, you need resources to be doing it. But for instance, for Tuan's project, we've been hosting Tuan for residency, but actually Tuan supports the exhibition, Tuan supports the filmmaking, Tuan supports Rose as an institution itself. So also the relationship between artists, institution, and curators is changing and fluctuating because this is how things should happen. This is how things should be. We should be able to support each other. It's not about, I am the head of this institution. I am this very bold curator. I am this very bold artist. You're bold nowhere if you're not supporting your community. And I think this is what we all need to keep in mind. And I'm happy to belong to this family today.
Welcome to the family. We are forever connected. Thank you so much, Fatima. We're out of time, but we know we're not done hearing from you. We will rejoin you for the panel discussion at 4:30 here. But until then, we will move on to our next presentation. And thank you once again. Another round of applause for Fatima, please.
Thank you. Oh my God, this is beautiful, Ratan. Congratulations. This is really amazing. Bravo. Yes, see you in a minute. And thank you, Ehud, for the support and Premier and everyone. Really, you've been doing good. See you later. Take care. Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Ciao.